ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا وسندنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I begin in the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. I send salutations on the best of messengers, the last of messengers, the best of creation, none other than Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Alhamdulillah, through the mercy and bounty of Allah the Almighty, we are currently in the 29th night of Ramadhān. And the 29th night is officially started. It started after the Maghrib prayer. Now, there is a chance, like we all know, for it to be Laylatul Qadr, the night of power tonight as well. Therefore, like other nights in the nights of Ramadan and even the days, we were worshipping excessively. We were trying to attract the blessings of Allah. We were trying to attract the blessings of Allah. We were asking forgiveness immensely. And we need to carry out this until the last night and even after Ramadan. This whole month of Ramadan was more like a training for us, such training that keeps us going after Ramadan as well. So just like when we are playing sports and we have a proper game, then before we play, generally we carry out a warm-up. This is to save us from cramps, save us from like muscle pains, save us from any type of injuries as such, so that we can play properly throughout the game. So likewise, Ramadan is 1 month from amongst the 12 months in a year. So this 1 month is supposed to like charge us up, warm us up for the whole year and keep us going. And the qualities that we are supposed to create in this month within ourselves, we are supposed to maintain those qualities throughout the whole year, and then we have Ramadan again, if Allah wishes for us to have Ramadan again. Now, there's many things that could be discussed in the past month of Ramadan. We discussed many things, but one thing that I want to discuss is a chapter in the Quran that we recited not so long ago, which is known as the chapter of Shura. And Shura can also be synonymously, another word used for Shura is Mashwara, which will be common amongst us, and many of us will be aware of this word, which is known as Mashwara. And Mashwara means consultation, mutual consultation. So basically, Allah the Almighty has devoted a whole chapter towards this, or this chapter is named Shura, Ashura, Surah Ashura, the chapter of consultation. Now what does this mean? Ashura and Mashwara, it means to consult another individual. So if we have to do anything in life, then we have to consult another. Or this is what we should be doing. Now, obviously when it comes to fard acts like the 5-time daily prayers, things that we have to do, the rights that we owe to Allah, then there is no consultation in that, because we have to do that as humans, as Muslims, as believers, because we have come to this world for the purpose of worshipping Allah. So whatever Allah tells us to do, commands us to do, so the fasting in Ramadan, the Hajj pilgrimage, if it's compulsory upon us, zakat, if it's compulsory upon us, then these things obviously we don't consult others in relation to whether we should do this or not. Yes, we consult others like scholars and experts in relation to the rulings with regards to these things and how to do these things if we don't know. But generally, whether we should carry out these acts, we don't consult. We just have to do it because Allah has ordered us. We have to submit to Allah's command and order. Likewise, when it comes to prohibitions, when Allah tells us not to do something, and also the Prophet ﷺ tells us not to do something, then we don't ask someone, shall we do this or not? So for example, Allah in the Quran and in many verses in the Quran teaches us and tells us that we shouldn't drink alcohol. So now obviously we're not going to ask someone, shall I drink alcohol or not? Because we know Allah has told us not to do it and forbid us from doing it and prohibited it from us. Now, when it comes to consultation, this chapter and the verses mentioned in this chapter is referring to consultation when it comes to things of permissible in nature. So for example, whether you should carry out such and such business, whether you should, for example, if someone wants to get married, whether someone should get married to such and such person. So things like this that are permissible in nature, and things that have got nothing to do with direct commands of Allah or direct prohibitions, then we are told to consult others, and this is what the verses in this chapter refers to. Now this is something that is of high importance, and it's something that we undermine or overlook. Many of us, we don't consult our elders, we don't consult our pious individuals when it comes to things whether we should do them or not. So for example, whether you should carry out studies in such and such field, or whether you should do such and such job, or whether you should carry out such and such travel for whatever purpose, then it's important that you consult your elders and you consult your pious elders and respected elders and those that are experts as well. So when it comes to consultation, the importance is such that Allah mentions in the Quran. He mentions, وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ, and this is directed to the Prophet ﷺ, and then effectively to us as well. So Allah says to the Prophet ﷺ that consult them, i.e. consult the companions in the affair, in the matter, and in effect all other matters as well, or generally in matters. So Allah is telling the Prophet ﷺ to consult the Sahaba. Allah is telling the Prophet ﷺ to consult the companions. So basically he's trying to tell him to take mashwara from the companions. And then Allah mentions, فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. When you have decided to do something, and then obviously you carry out that thing, but then you trust in Allah. So obviously once you've consulted, then it's your decision to make whether you should do this or whether you shouldn't do it. Obviously you should listen to the guidance what you have been given. And then Allah mentions in another place in the Quran, which also highlights the importance of mashwara and mutual consultation and consulting our elders. وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ, that the pious, the believers, the true believers and the companions, etc., their matters amongst themselves is in consultation. So when they do things, it's in consultation. So they consult others, they seek counsel, they seek guidance, and they seek mashwara. And remember, when you consult another pious elder or another individual, then there's some qualities that have been mentioned in light of Quran and Hadith by the scholars that are important. So one thing that is important when you consult someone is that you consult someone that wants good for you. Someone that wants good for you. So for example, your family members, your parents, your elders, someone or those that want good for you. Because obviously you're not just going to consult one of your enemies whether you should do something or not, because most probably he'll guide you to the right or the wrong way, and he won't guide you to the right way, and he'll tell you something wrong. So one thing is you take consultation, or you seek consultation from those that want good for you. And another thing is, when you're consulting, you consult those that are experts in that individual matter that you're consulting for. So for example, if you are seeking consultation in relation to a certain job or in relation to a certain business that you should do, obviously you are going to consult someone that is an expert in that field, an expert in the field of business, or that has experience in that field, that has gone through the same matters or similar matters, that has the knowledge in relation to that field. So that is obviously important. So you don't just seek some consultation from someone that has no expertise in that field. And likewise, when it comes to knowledge as well, and this is just a side point, it's sad that when we want to seek knowledge, when we want to know a religious ruling, then we'll check online. We may Google something and we'll see whatever we can find online. We won't consult anyone, we'll just check online and we'll read whatever material without any expertise. Whereas when it comes to worldly matters, when it comes to, for example, say Allah forbid, but one of us are suffering from a heart injury or a heartache, or we need a heart surgery. Now if you come to me and you tell me this, and I'm not even a doctor, I'm not even an expert in this field, I'm not a surgeon, I'm not a heart surgeon or anything, and you mention this matter to me that I've got an issue with my heart, I need heart surgery, And then I say to you, I've watched so many videos online, I've Googled so much on this topic, I've watched so many YouTube videos in relation to the heart and heart surgery. I've got so much knowledge. You know what, come to my house, I will do surgery and I'll operate on you. Are you going to let me operate on you? Are you going to let me do surgery on you? Obviously no, you're not going to, because you know that I've done self-studying, I've read the material online, I've watched material online in relation to this field, but I've not stayed in the company of experts in this field. I've not stayed with expert doctors, expert heart surgeons, etc. So obviously you're not going to trust me. But when it comes to religious rulings, sadly, we don't seek scholarly expertise, or we don't seek consultation, or we don't seek guidance from the scholars. We'll just read things ourselves when we aren't even experts. And this is obviously wrong. When we want to know a religious ruling, it's important that we seek the guidance or ask an expert scholar, someone that has knowledge of the field. We don't just do everything willy-nilly. Now this is just a side point. So going back to the topic of consultation, mashwara, seeking consultation and mutual consultation. So one of the policies is you seek consultation from someone that is an expert in the field, and another thing is that you seek consultation from someone that wants good for you, someone that wants good from you. Now there's a narration that has been mentioned that مَا خَابَ مَنِ اسْتَخَارَ وَمَا نَدِمَ مَنِ اسْتَشَارَ, and in some narrations it mentions وَلَا نَدِمَ مَنِ اسْتَشَارَ, that individual who does istikhara, and I'll explain istikhara, he will not be in loss, and that individual who does mashwara, who seeks consultation, he will not be regretful and remorseful. So from this narration we can see that when we want to do something, in light of what I've been mentioning at the start and what I've mentioned, then if you seek consultation from an expert, someone that wants good for you, then you will not be regretful and remorseful over whatever you do. So this is what this narration mentions. And at the start of this narration is mentioned that individual who does istikhara, he will not be in loss. Now what is istikhara? Istikhara means to seek goodness from Allah the Almighty. Istikhara means to seek goodness from Allah the Almighty, to seek good from Allah the Almighty. So this narration informs us that there's two things that you need to do when you want to do something that's permissible in nature, and like what I mentioned at the start. So not those things that are in relation to direct commands of Allah, like worship, etc. Not those things that are in relation to direct prohibitions in Sharia, etc. But things that are just general in nature, and things that I give examples of at the start. There's two things that you need to do. One thing is consultation, seek consultation like I mentioned. And the second thing, in light of this narration, is istikhara, seeking goodness from Allah the Almighty. Now what is istikhara? Istikhara, in light of hadith, means you perform 2 rakats of salah. You perform 2 rakats of salah, just general nafil salah. And after the salah, the nafil salah, you recite the dua of istikhara. You recite the dua of istikhara, which is quite common and it's in hadith. And you just make dua. That is all what istikhara is. So you do this, and you also do mashwara. Now istikhara, you can do it any time during the day. Scholars obviously do say, and they prefer that it be done at night time before going to sleep. But you can do it any time during the day. And this is something that is very important, because remember, you're seeking goodness from Allah. So basically you're connecting with Allah and you're asking Allah for help, for the best in that thing that you're about to do, that Allah make the best happen for you. Now obviously there's many things that have been mentioned in relation to istikhara. Some people say that, or if you see a dream and you see such and such thing in your dream, then this means this, and your istikhara is like this. But obviously that has no basis to all that. It's not necessary to see a dream. It's not necessary to even perform the istikhara. So perform the istikhara prayer and the istikhara dua and then go sleep. So you can do it anytime during the day, and then inshallah Allah will put the thing in your heart to carry out you have it like an inclination, and you do whatever is best. And we've got pious predecessors that used to do istikhara in such a way that they used to do it every day at the start of the day. They used to do it every day at the start of the day. Obviously it can't be a time of the day when it's prohibited to perform nafil prayer and salah. So for example, the zawal time, the sunset time, and the sunrise time. So these 3 prohibited times. And the pious predecessors, what they used to do At the start of the day, they would perform general istikhara prayer, 2 rakat salah, recite the istikhara dua, and make dua that, oh Allah, whatever deeds that I do during the day, whatever actions I do, oh Allah, make me do them in the right way and make that happen what is best for me. So this is what they used to do. This was a practice of our pious predecessors. So there's 2 things, there's istikhara and there's also mashwara. These things are very important, and I think these are things that are lacking in many people's lives, and if we carry out these practices and inculcate these actions in our lives, inshallah they will help us a lot. And I will conclude by just touching up upon istikhara, because in istikhara obviously you're seeking goodness from Allah, so you are in effect connecting with Allah. So this is just like dua. In life it is important that we make as much dua as possible, because remember, in life, when we go up to someone that we know, a friend, a family member, and say we are in need of money, we are in need of some money, so we go up to a friend and we say, can you lend me some money? The friend will probably lend us the money because he's our friend. Then you go up to him another time and you say, can you lend me some more money? And you've not even paid him back yet for the first time that he lent you money. Now he may give you the second time as well because he's your friend. You go up to him a third time and you ask him for money, he may give you the money the third time as well. But if he's a bit strict, he'll probably say no. But the fourth time, most probably he will say no. And if you go to him after that and you keep going, then he's going to say no. This is the nature of a human. But Allah the Almighty, He's the opposite. Allah the Almighty, He likes it when we ask from Him. Allah likes when we ask from Him, we make dua to Him more and more. And Allah the Almighty, He gets angry when we don't ask Him. Allah the Almighty gets angry when we don't make dua to Him. Allah the Almighty wants us to ask Him excessively. Ask from Him excessively, whatever we need, all our needs. That is why it comes in the narration, even if you are in need of a shoelace for your shoes, then you ask Allah the Almighty, because Allah the Almighty is the one who gives. Then obviously you take means after that, after asking Allah the Almighty. So this is what you are doing in istikhara. You're seeking goodness from Allah, you're making dua from Allah. So it's important that we make dua as much as possible in life, because Allah the Almighty, He also mentions in the Quran, وَقَالَ رَبُّكُمُ ادْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ. Allah saying, make dua to me, ask me, I will accept your prayers, I will answer your prayers. And remember, Muslims, du'as are never unanswered. When you ask from Allah, Allah always answers our prayers. Allah always listens to us. But obviously, there's conditions that we eat halal, our drinking is halal, our clothing is halal, our income is halal. If all these things are halal, we ask Allah sincerely, and obviously we stay away from major sins, etc. as well. But these are the general things. So our everything is halal, eating, drinking, clothing, and we ask Allah sincerely, we have full trust in Him, then Allah answers our prayers. But many of us are probably thinking, but I make dua so many times a day for Allah to bless me with such and such thing, but Allah doesn't give it me straight away. But remember, when Allah the Almighty answers our prayers, He answers them in different ways. So for example, we'll ask Allah for something, but Allah will know that thing is not good for us at the time. So Allah will not give us at the time that thing, but Allah will still remember that we have prayed. So what Allah will do in place of that, He will give us something that is good for us at the time. Or sometimes Allah the Almighty will get rid of a calamity in lieu of that prayer that we make, in lieu of that dua that we make. So I'll give you an example. Sometimes when our children, they are ill, we've got young children for example, and we take them to the shop to buy some drinks, or we just take them, we're buying something for ourselves, we're doing some shopping, grocery, we've taken them with us, but they are ill, they've got a bad throat. Now they lay their eyes on the sweets and the chocolates, and they want sweets and chocolates. But we know they are ill, they've got a really bad throat, and it's not good for them. But they start crying, and they're saying, no, we want it, we want it. But we know it's not good for them. So we say to them that, no, you can't have it because you've got bad throat. But the child says, or he or she's only 5 or 6, so he's not got that mature understanding at the time, so the child doesn't understand, and the child thinks, no, I want it. So the child keeps persisting that, no, I want it, I want it. But obviously we just blank the child and we say, no, I'm not going to get it because I know if I get it for you, you'll eat it now or you eat it at home and it will have an adverse effect on your throat and you may become more ill. So we don't get it. So we know that thing is bad for the child. We know we want to give it to the child and we want to really buy it for the child, but we know it's not good for the child at the time. So that's what happens when we make dua sometimes. We'll ask Allah for something, but Allah knows that that thing is not good for us at the time. So we may ask us, oh Allah, we may ask from Allah that, oh Allah, please make me wealthy. Oh Allah, please give me this much money right now. But Allah will not give us sometimes. He'll still answer our prayer, but He will not give us the money there and then. Because He knows that if He gives us so much, we may start committing sins with the money. We may start doing things that are impermissible with the money. So instead, Allah will give us something that is good for us at the time. Allah will get rid of a calamity on our behalf. And sometimes Allah will not give us anything in this world, but what will happen on the Day of Judgment, it comes in a narration that a person will come in front of Allah and Allah the Almighty will give him so many good deeds. And Allah will say, all these good deeds are for you. And a person will be shocked and will say to Allah, oh Allah, where are all these deeds from? What have I done? Excessively, what good deeds have I done that you are giving me so many good deeds? Then Allah the Almighty will say that you made dua in this world. You made so much dua, but I never gave you whatever you asked for in the world because Allah obviously knew that wasn't good for us, etc. Now, in place of that dua, I'm giving you all the rewards right now, and these are all the good deeds. And then, you know what the person will say? The person will say, oh Allah, I wish you never accepted any of my prayers in this world, and instead, in place of those prayers that I made, I wish you give me all those rewards in the hereafter. So that's how many rewards Allah the Almighty will bless us with. So we can see from this that we should make as much dua as possible, and we should not undermine the importance and the power of dua. I pray Allah the Almighty give us all the ability to consult and understand the importance of mashwara. I pray Allah the Almighty give us the ability to do istikhārah and understand the importance of istikhārah. And I pray Allah the Almighty give us the ability to make dua and understand the importance of dua. Ameen wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidil mursaleen. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم قنا عذابك يوم تبعث وتجمع عبادك. اللهم احفظنا من كل بلاء الدنيا وعذاب الآخرة. اللهم بارك لنا في الموت وفيما بعد الموت. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم نور قلوبنا بالإيمان. اللهم زين قلوبنا بزينة الإيمان. يا غفار يا تواب فاغفر لنا وتب علينا. يا رحمن ارحمنا يا أرحم الراحمين. يا رحمن يا رحيم. اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة الدائمة في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. آمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.